everybody, to Motivos Team Talk. I'm Janae Chizik-Aguero, founder and publisher of Motivos Bilingual Magazine. Motivos, if you don't know, is a print magazine in English and Spanish, goes out quarterly, now considered the nation's largest bilingual magazine with youth-generated content. So we're super proud that it's based right here in Philadelphia with stories generated by youth who meet in our media mentorship after-school program. And Motivos really amplifies youth voice while connecting readers with resources and role models to access scholarships, college entrance, and career opportunities. And we do that through the content that is in the magazine focused on culture, life, college, and careers. And we do that through programming like workshops, half-day leadership conferences, both locally and nationally, and after-school programs like what you're experiencing tonight, Team Talk. So in Team Talk, we get together with the media mentees who are aged 14 to 24 from different high schools and colleges and out-of-school youth from different parts of the country. Most are still in Philadelphia. And we take turns. So interviewing professionals like we'll do tonight, interviewing insiders from college so they can find out about financial resources and how to find the best fit for their future pursuits. And we meet with writing instructors, we brainstorm ideas, decide themes, who we're going to interview, what stories we're going to tell, and use each other as sounding boards and resources to really navigate life and navigate through the stories and how we're going to tell them. So welcome everyone into our space. If you're interested in being part of the magazine, you can go on our link tree. I'll put the link in the chat. It's also on our Instagram bio, and you can sign up, you can apply to be part of the team, you can submit articles, you can answer writing prompts, you can look at our list of scholarships, and of course, get the magazine for yourself, for your school, for the young people in your life. We'd be happy to share the stories with you. Tonight's program is a very special one. We've been putting together for some time now. So we are going to host the producers, I would say the creative producers behind the magic that is the RiverAlive Learning Trail. It's a project of the Tacony-Frankford watershed partnership. So we're going to open it with the executive director, Julie Slavet, from that organization. And then we're going to move on to our panel of creatives, from the visionaries to the artists, to the musicians, to the coordinators of youth component, to community members themselves. And our hope is to learn from each of them kind of what was their journey that brought them into their line of work, and what role did they play in creating this magical RiverAlive learning trail? What's their favorite part of it? And why would you want to visit? Why do they want you to visit? What kind of magic can you uncover if you actually put your feet on the ground and listen and touch and feel and learn, both there on the learning trail and at the Seaport Museum, the sister exhibit that inspired this. So I'm going to, without further ado, and do stay with us till the end, because we're going to connect you with a free field trip that's leaving from the RiverAlive Learning Trail on December 18th. It's a bus for the family down to the Seaport Museum, free bus, free admission. So stay tuned for that at the end. And now I'm going to pass the mic over to Julie Slavet, the executive director at the Tacony-Frankford Watershed Partnership, and share my screen so she can kind of give us a framework. What was this a magical project all about?
Hey, everybody. Can you hear me? We good?
Mm-hmm.
And the bus, I have to say, it's a really nice bus. It is not a school bus, so think twice about that. It's a really lovely trip. I went along for the first visit to the museum, and I hadn't been on a bus with a lot of families and little kids for a long time, and it was really a lot of fun. Like, the bus trip was, the museum was great, but kids actually had an amazing time on the bus too. So again, I think that's my last slide.
Oops.
That's okay.
There we go.
There's the first slide. So again, Janae, an amazing job actually saying our name, which is really long and confusing. The Tacony-Frankford Watershed Partnership. Our job is to connect the people who live in our watershed, which is a geography created by Mother Nature, 30 square miles, to connect people in our watershed to their creeks. And actually, I just want to recognize the names. Our name is very long, but the reason it's long is because Tookany and Tacony comes from the same Lenape word, which means woods or hidden place, which is really beautiful. And then those creek, they call it one thing in Montgomery County, the Tacony in Philadelphia, and then it becomes the Frankford Creek and it flows into the Delaware River. And that's our landscape. So it's important to recognize where those names came from. And now we're just going to say TTF. So next slide. I think someone's helping me with this.
I'm seeing if I can forward. Let's see here.
Let me do that. So what we do is, again, we connect people to their creeks. And that is that in Philadelphia, we really don't have any little streams and tributaries left. So we lost the slide. Can you guys see the slides?
Oops, hold on a second. There we go.
I'm sorry, I made this more confusing. Okay, there we go. So the way we connect people to their creeks, and again, in Philadelphia, you know this, but you don't really think about it. We don't have any little tributaries left. We have the main stems, which are in parks. In other parts of the region, you can still see creeks, although they don't look the way they should. So we're trying to connect people to waterways that are now underground and in pipes. So that's a challenge. And the way we connect people and the way we improve our watershed, which is our goal, is through education, stewardship, taking care, restoration, which means, improving, planting trees, making our creeks healthier, and then advocacy, which is talking about talking to other people and our elected officials about how nature and our environment and water and clean air are really important. So this is what we do. We do this with partners, and we try to be as creative as possible in doing these things. And this project really was the most creative way we've ever done this work, pulled all these things together and really connected people. Skip to the next, we'll go to the next slide. Can you do that, Janae?
Yeah, it's not going forward. So I have to stop sharing every time we want to go forward. It's okay.
Keep talking. So we love maps and we love landscapes. What's important is the land impacts the water. And again, the indigenous people that lived here before we did, and many folks who are from places that really appreciate land and nature understand that, that what we do to the land really affects the water. So these are just two maps to give you an idea of the landscape. So on the left is our whole watershed. And you can see, it's the purple line, and you can see the bottom part of it, which is below Cheltenham, which is that big square, like that kind of pink square. All below that is all of Philadelphia. And that's our whole watershed. And then you can see actually that there are no blue lines left except that one main line, which is the Tacony Creek. So that's kind of interesting, something people don't generally think about. And all those stars are places where we have done projects. And around Tacony Creek is Tacony Creek Park, which is on the next map. And the work that we do in Tacony Creek Park is to really connect people to the park, to build stewardship for the park, to take care of the park, to get people back into it, and to use it as the resource that it is. We consider every inch of our watershed an outdoor classroom. We don't actually even have an environmental center. So every inch of the Tacony Creek Park is an outdoor classroom as far as we're concerned. And we do a lot of programs that are at gateways and are walking programs. And on this map, you can see some of the amazing things that are in the park: beavers and great blue herons and lots of birds. And this project gave us the opportunity to really connect people, to see, to bring people into the park and to connect them in a way that was so exciting, because the park is really neglected and not well maintained, and that turns people off. So, all right, one more slide. I think two more slides is the next one. So Dorian put this together. Isn't this beautiful?
It's beautiful.
So a lot in the work that we do, they're all about the nature. We have a very nerdy bunch over here at TTF, and they really care about the plants and the birds and the bugs in the water and all that. I care about the people. I think the people are the most important. And these, because people make things happen, and these kids are inheriting this world. So this just shows everything we do is with the community. We're all about engaging the community. Even when we do a restoration project, or a project like the RiverAlive Learning Trail, we may work with contractors who have to bring in big pieces of equipment and move things, but we always include a hands-on planting, or in the RiverAlive Learning Trail, helping us design and then doing the mosaics, so that there is some community involvement. So these show all the different kinds of programs we do: block parties, fishing, nature walks. We have a creek mobile, but all these things really sort of, the most exciting one of these that we've done again is the RiverAlive Learning Trail, which we're going to talk to you about, I think, after the next slide. So this is Water Connects Us. This is all our information right there. We're on all social media. And am I introducing the next people like one at a time, and they're going to each
I
jump
can
in?
introduce Victoria. Yeah, I mean, if you want to give a framework, that's fine. Otherwise, I can. That's totally fine.
Okay. So this was an amazing project brought to us by Victoria Prizzia of Habithèque, who is an amazing creative director. And we know her through a lot of the other organizations that we work with around mussels, around watershed education. And she came to us with this idea for this learning trail that would bring the components and the imagery and all the excitement around the exhibit that's at the Seaport Museum to a neighborhood. And it did not, I don't think I paused for even like 1 second when Victoria asked me if we were interested in doing this, because this is all about what we do, and we've done with some of the other wonderful people on this. I'm looking at Jay, the wonderful people that we've worked with in the community to bring even more love and resources to the park. So I'm done, and I'm so excited to see everybody on this call. We love talking about
this. I'm going to, let's see here. Woo. Back to my Zoom. There we go. So I wanted to introduce Victoria, and I will say it was wonderful having the Creek Mobile out to the summer camps that Motivos did. So we did some watershed themed summer camps at Salvation Army with the kids there. We had over 40 kids, 2 different sites, and they went out on trails. They did scavenger hunts to storm water drains. They really started to understand where the water goes and why we don't want the trash going into the storm drains, et cetera, et cetera. And Dorian came out with the Creek Mobile. It was really wonderful. So I'd love to hear next from Victoria Prizzia. So Victoria is kind of the visionary behind this, and I'm going to bring up her website actually so that you can see that. And she is the founder and the principal of Habithèque. Let me know if I'm saying it incorrectly. Habithèque. Yep. That creates exhibits and events and experiences that intrigue, inform, inspire those that come into the very presence of the installations that she creates. She's a visionary, really. So if you think of how magic happens, right? Someone has to connect disparate parts from different parts of their life. So we're really curious to find out, like, how did Victoria become Victoria, and how did she get these ideas to come up with something as creative as what RiverAlive is? So Victoria, take it away.
Oh, thank you so much, Janae. Thank you, Pat, for arranging this. I think it's wonderful to be here with everyone, and we really appreciate all the work that Motivos is doing. And I can't wait to see the magazine issue. So anything that you need in the future weeks and months, please just contact me. But so yes, my name is Victoria. And actually, the RiverAlive Learning Trail combines all of my life passions. So when I was 10 years old, I got involved in an after-school program. I went to a small public school in rural New York, and the after-school program was called the Tree Committee. And the Tree Committee really was an environmental activist group. And we, I was 10 years old, and there were 20 of us. And we set out to plant trees and create recycling centers in the town. And we put on Arbor Day programs. We sang about water and about the earth. We went to the United Nations. We traveled to Canada. And we did this, all between 10 and 13 years of age. And it was the beginning of my life's work. And so I ended up studying journalism. So I am very much in this world that all of you are in. I studied journalism, photography, and sociology in undergraduate school, and then I went to work as a journalist, and then I got involved in an environmental group where I was doing creating newsletters and writing for the public interest research group. And so I had a list that's called PIRGs, and it's an environmental group across the country and I think all states. And I worked for that organization for a while, and then got my master's in education in critical and creative thinking, and really was focusing on oral history. So from the very beginning, I, kind of was gravitating towards more subjective storytelling, more creative storytelling versus journalism. But all the storytelling that I do is based on, the real world and facts, and science in particular. And then after the Masters of Ed, I started working in museums. I got my first museum project, which was an oral history project up in Maine. And I ended up working for a small museum for a couple of years and barely made any money, but I had such a good time. And I also got into sailing at the time. And then with that experience in museums, I was hungry for more, and I went back and got my Master's of Fine Art in museum exhibition planning and design. And the MFA was really a way for me to open up possibilities so that I could also potentially teach, which I've done throughout the years. I've been an adjunct and also a guest lecturer at different universities. But now I started my company in 2010. Prior to that, I was working as a freelancer. And when someone says that they work as a freelancer, it just means that they're not working for any one company or organization, that they're working for multiple companies and multiple organizations, which was perfect for me at the time because I like to do different things and I had different skills. And so for each project, I could do different aspects of the work. But in 2010, I decided that I really wanted to focus on these museum projects, really, and most of these projects were focused on the environment. So what I do with my work is I connect people to the natural world, and usually through the lens of water. And so in 2019, shortly after the RiverAlive exhibition opened at the Seaport Museum, the Independent Seaport Museum, which was it's a large exhibition, and actually it was damaged during Hurricane Ida. So there are aspects of the RiverAlive exhibition that aren't there anymore, but it was an award-winning exhibition. It won the Excellence of Exhibitions from the American Association of Museums. But in 2019, the William Penn Foundation asked me if I would basically create a satellite experience that built on the work of the RiverAlive exhibition, and that was the RiverAlive Learning Trail. And they basically wanted it to go to a community that didn't have a lot of activities like this. And so one of my initial efforts, so in 2019, I received the funding for this phase one, but one of my initial task was to find an organization that was working on the ground, meaning I needed to find a grassroots organization that had already built relationships with community in this area of Philadelphia. And I immediately thought of Julie and TTF Watershed because I long admired their work. I really admire their integrity and the fact that they are so involved in community outreach, but that they do it from a very genuine, authentic they do it in a very genuine and authentic way. So I went to Julie and said, please, please. And she said, yes, yes. And we hit the ground running. And thankfully we had our first, so this image here up in the right is basically how we were imagining the footprint. So the footprint just meaning like, what is the actual physical space that we were going to focus on for this project? And the goal of this project really was to meet people where they are, meaning that we weren't asking them to go into a museum, that we were actually going to bring content and experiences to them in the public space. So more and more of my projects are happening in public spaces, so or in organizations or in cultural institutions that are free to the public. So in actually this past year, I finished 3 projects and they're all free and open to the public. So with this project, we were focusing on 3 to 5-year-olds. The exhibition at the Independent Seaport Museum is a general exhibition, meaning that it's for everyone, families, all ages. But the RiverAlive Learning Trail, we were really focusing on 3 to 5-year-olds and their first teachers. And you might, their first teachers could be a parent, could be a sister or brother, could be a cousin, could be a neighbor. And how do we really create kind of these conversations and prompts for these different generations to talk to one another, but to do it through play. So the idea is playful learning. And so in the RiverAlive visioning, we had spent a year, and so we had the first community session. If you want to go down a little bit, Janae. So we had if you could keep going down. And so we basically invited, this is great, we invited some community members, families, individuals to come to the Seaport Museum. And you can see up here is the classroom space in the middle of the exhibition. And we basically asked people who live near this park what they wanted, what they would like to see there. What are the barriers to being in the park? What would be some of their dreams? What were some of their fears? What kinds of activities would they want to do together? What kinds of activities would they want to do alone? What things were needed? What resources were missing? And, we did this initial meeting in February 2020. And I think you can all remember what happened in March 2020 is basically everything closed down. And so we were so happy that we got this meeting in before that. And then that set the tone for a year's worth of design work. And within that year, we were really trying to come up with a framework. What would the elements be? So one thing that came out during this meeting is that there's a real need for seating. It was very simple that the community wanted seating. Because we were working in a public space and because Parks and Rec and the way that the different agencies work together in the city of Philadelphia, like they do in many cities, we had to have everything be movable, meaning that it wasn't permanent. We couldn't actually change the landscape or the park in any permanent way. So we had to come up with really creative solutions. So I worked with an architecture firm and some engineers, fabricators, and we came up with a framework where we were going to have 6 animal sculptures, because we also heard from the community that it would be great to have animals there. So, and we used animals that you could potentially see in the greater park that Julie was just talking about. So if you went walking in this on this trail, you could potentially see some of these animals. So not the otter. The otter we used as an animal that you may have seen, 120 years ago, but you probably wouldn't see now. And that's really a message of pollution and the reason why otters wouldn't be there now. So in addition to the sculptures, we wanted to really connect with this water content, like I was saying. So each sculpture was intended to have a water element. And in phase 1, we were really not sure what that water element would be, but we also knew that we wanted the sculptures to have a mosaic component. So if you want to go up, Janae. And so this mosaic component was a super key part of the project. We wanted to have a way for the community to get involved in the actual creative process. So part of my belief in the work that I do is that the act of creation is a way to open doors, to experiences that maybe you didn't know you'd enjoy or that you were good at. But it also opens you to think differently about the world. It also, the act of creation is also a means to make sense of difficult and complex subjects. So in this case, we really wanted to have a mosaic component that we could invite the community in. It was a very important part of the project to develop develop with us. And the other components of the project is so you had the 6 sculptures, the 6 benches, and then the other really important part of the project were graphic signs. So we wanted to tell the story of the watershed, but we wanted to tell it in a way that would be engaging to 3 to 5-year-olds, and something that they might want to sing about or read about or dance about. So that was one reason why we brought in City Love. I really wanted to have a sound component, a song. And so all of these elements evolved over time. We ended up working with an artist in the second phase of work, to Miguel Horn, to actually build the animal components. We worked with Jay to create the crosswalk murals. So we wanted to create what we call a threshold. So all exhibit components, all exhibits have a threshold, meaning what you walk through to start the experience, and those thresholds can be really important. So if you want someone to maybe slow down, you might have a threshold that's peaceful, and so that they can be ready to, interact with whatever it is you're going to ask them to interact with. So Jay created 2 crosswalk murals that we loved. And then we had the benches, and then we had the graphic signage. So the graphics, there were 2 graphics at each of the benches, and they were written as poetry. And we also had them translated into Spanish. And so part of the goals of the project were to build early literacy skills. And those early literacy skills were being reinforced by rhyming and alliteration in both English and in Spanish. And then another component that we worked with Jay on that actually came out of some of those early discussions with the community was these, if you go down, Janae, to the water art, the rain poetry. So the rain poetry here is poetry that is written that only appears when it's wet. So the water component with the sculptures is something that is interactive. There's a spray park, a spray playground, and during the summer months, people will be able to go and get buckets of water. And 3 to 5-year-olds, they love to play with water, and so they can pour the water on the animals, sit on the animals, and then also have these challenges where they find these messages. In addition to this, there's also programming, so activating these sculptures with public programs that happen on a regular basis. Everything from read aloud, so reading story time, and science activations that are a collaboration with the independent Seaport Museum. So in a nutshell, and I think I ran over my time though, Janae, sorry about that.
Well, you brought us right up to Jay. So with this activation of the poetry on the sidewalks, how unusual, how creative, how cool is that as you're walking along, poetry kind of comes to life, right? So this is amazing. Thank you so much. I'm going to call on Jay Coriano next. So the artist, you heard a little bit about kind of the mosaic community building and the poetry coming to life with water. And Jay's going to tell us a bit more about his own work. So passing the mic over to Jay.
All right, let's see if I can share my screen.
Yep.
You guys see?
Sure can.
All right, perfect. So, I'm an artist born and raised in Philadelphia. It's a humbling experience to be a part of something that has such impact in our neighborhoods. The first photo, if you can see, is a in action shot of what Victoria was saying, the threshold of the project. And, we just wanted to have that aspect of, water, and not only water, but when you think of water, it's kind of like an inanimate object. You don't see the life that's attached to it. So I think that's part of the main goal here is to, these are lives that are being impacted by, our litter and our negligence. Unfortunately, in Philadelphia, that's a big problem, but it's very important. And I'm just gonna go forward. Victoria definitely covered a lot of it. Me personally, both Victoria and Julie and Dorian as well. These are real life superheroes that we're seeing, you know? We're just so used to seeing people with capes on television and superpowers. But you know, superwoman is an understatement. They go above and beyond. You see them not only delegating, but hands-on, sweating, putting in work, focused. You know, they got their eye on the prize, they know the vision, and to see that execution, from my point of view, was beyond inspirational and a bunch of motivation. This photo that we're seeing here is one of the granddaughters, well, you know, a neighbor from the project. Beforehand, this is a part of the project that I've done prior with Julie and TTF. But as you can see, you know, it's pretty similar, just getting the community involved. This was a part of a different project, but the reason why I have this photo is because I had similar vibes, similar experiences, being an artist full circle in Philadelphia. It's it's good to you know, leave an impact, a positive impact in the community, especially when there's it's so easy to just get caught up in the streets and all the extra activities that's going on outside of you know, the neighborhood. This is an action shot of the water poetry. This was our first time, you know, just attempting something like this, something that we wanted to just be outside of the box, keep that interaction with the community without actually having to be around physically. And, you know, I've got a bunch of, you know, positive remarks on this, and, you know, it looks, even from an adult point of view, it really looks like magic. And I'm happy that we were able to, you know, involve this as a part of the project. And then this is another shot of a mural that I did, you know, prior to this learning trail project, but it still revolves around Ferkel Playground and the park. You know, at the time, this was at the time of the pandemic, people were rioting, you know, we were here, you know, if you were in Philadelphia, or if you were, you know, if you dealt with the similar things, you understand that it was a hard time, hardship. And a lot of that, one of the main outlets that people have, the neighbors have, is to just go out and take a walk in the park and just try to clear your head and clear your mind from the madness going on in the city. Yeah, it was an honor to actually see the community just give me positive feedback and the motivation I needed to just keep going forward with this project. And just going back to, you know, the RiverAlive, I've contributed as much as I possibly can, creative wise. I would say, I would close out by saying, you know, one of the most impactful things about this project is just the connection. There's something so valuable about connection, and it's increasing in value as we speak. It's becoming more and more valuable to have that interaction with one another as we deal with these times of technology taking over and cell phones and everything right in our face in the blink of an eye. We really don't have to leave our houses. We don't have to leave our homes. We have everything we need. But just to have that balance with the nature and just to bring out, you know, the positivity, the fresh air, just all the vibes in general. I feel like if we were maybe in the central part of America or somewhere else where, you know, nature is everywhere, I think this probably wouldn't have been a big of a deal. But we're smack in the middle of Philadelphia, buildings everywhere, traffic. There's, you know, I don't know how many trees they have in Philadelphia, but we're not leaving a lot of space for them, you know? And there's a lot of history that goes into the park and TTF, and there's a lot of things that, protect the park and, stop all the building around it. And I feel like it's such a privilege for us to have this park in our backyards. And I definitely encourage everyone to come out and just walk right into the space, grab a book that you like, and just experience it for yourself, because this park is definitely like one of the greatest parts about Philadelphia that is easily overlooked.
Aw, thank you so much, Jay. We're gonna pass the mic. This is amazing. And we're if you have questions as we go, feel free to put them in the chat. We're hoping to save some time at the end for Q&A, and we want to make sure we have time for each of our creative producers on the panel here tonight. So we're gonna jump to the next one. But like I said, put your questions in the chat. So next up, we have Brian and Natasha from City Love. Now, these are the part of the musicians behind this creative project. So City Love is a Philly-based social justice music and education group, and kids are their primary audience. And they say, they're creating music for the world that we need. And they use their songs to spread hope, to spread love, to spread dialogue, to spread justice and healing. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Brian and Natasha. And thank you so much for being here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Natasha. And Brian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah, I'm Brian.
Hi, okay. We're here today from City Love, and I'm one of the newer members of the group. This is a group with more than 5 people who come together and work together to create songs focused on like justice and talk about like social things that are going on in the world. So we just kind of got an opportunity to work on this song because of what we do. Brian, is there anything you'd like to add?
Sure, yeah. And I guess we've been around for 8 years as a group, and yeah, we've done a lot of assemblies all around the country with our music at different schools and a lot of different community concerts, and presenting at conferences and doing professional developments for teachers with our songs. So we just love getting to put music and education together. And so this was a perfect project, and we were thrilled to get to be involved with it. And we have let's see, maybe I can pull up a little bit of the song. The song itself is like 6 minutes long. It's like 6 songs in one. So we'll just play a little snippet of it. But just to give you a little sense of it, let me pull that up and I'll show a few pictures of the group as well, so you can see the other wonderful members of the team that helped work on this project. So let me get my, let's see. Okay, 1 second. All right. Can you all hear that?
Water is life.
Yep.
Great.
Water is life.
Watershed, flowing all around. Watershed, flowing underground. Watershed, oceans, lakes, and streams. Watershed, we can keep it clean.
Hey, Fox. Oh, yes, that's me. Can you tell us a little about your story? Sure thing, my friends. I'm so glad you asked. Did you know that I can run really fast as a car, as fast as a truck? If you try to catch me, you won't have much luck. Running really fast helps me catch food, like mice and frogs and earthworms too. I hunt along rivers and creeks and lakes, and I sleep all day while you're awake. The water is where I like to play, but if you don't keep it clean, then I can't stay. I love to play games and make funny sounds, to talk with other foxes who live in town. I can hear things that are very far away. Can you listen with me? What does the wind say? Almost time for my daytime snooze. Thanks for listening to all my news.
When I might fast forward a little, Natasha, can I play the part of your song real quick? Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. You want to tell them really quick the animal you wrote for?
So I wrote for the otter because I like otters, and I love how they interact with each other. And I felt like that was something really important to me. So I thought it was really nice to write a verse about otters.
Let's see. I'm going to put that song back on. 1 second. Okay,
Okay.
here it comes.
I am an otter. I love to swim and play all day. I am an otter. I love to be with my family. I am an otter. I explore my world curiosity. I am an otter. Collecting rocks and sticks is fun for me. Water is my friend. I find food when it's clean. If the watershed is polluted, you probably won't see me.
I'll stop it right there, and let me just pull up a picture of everybody one more time. Do you want to tell everybody in the group, Natasha?
Oh, yeah. So we have Brian, we have Masila, Kiana, David, and then myself.
Great.
There we are.
All right. Yeah, and I think it looks like Jamie Lee put the link to the rest of the song in. Oh, yeah, the rest of the songs in there, and so you can check that out. And Natasha, you want to just say real quick, like a word about how we decided to do this project?
Well, how we decided to do it, we kind of just broke it up into parts. Everybody kind of picked their own animal that they wanted to do a verse for. And then we kind of got together and shared what we had and then worked individually. And that's pretty much how it went.
Yeah, we were just so thrilled the multidisciplinary aspect of this, integrating place and space and all these visual arts and interactive arts, and it's just incredible, and language arts in there. So it's just a beautiful thing to be a part of, and kind of out of our usual arena of like songs that we focus on, but it was so special to get to work on this and really try and honor the water, honor the land, and get kids engaged.
Wow. Thank you so much, guys. And if you have a chance, right, so go up to these sculptures and take out your phones and scan in the QR codes, and you'll hear the music that City Love wrote about the animal at the sculpture that you're standing in front of. It was my son and I did this. It's so much fun. So I hope you all have the chance to do this in person. Speaking of youth, I'm going to pass the mic over to Greg Lynch. So Greg Lynch is the Executive Director of the Youth Volunteer Corps of Greater Philadelphia. So there was a youth component to the creation of the sculptures and the benches, and he's kind of behind pulling the youth together. I think he brought a young person along with him too. So Greg, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Janae, and thanks, everybody. It was certainly our pleasure to work on this project. Our main kind of connection and liaison was the lead artist, Miguel Horn, who worked on both the animal sculptures and the benches. And really, that was where we came in. So this was a big ongoing project for us. I think you'll see at the end, we did something like 13 different project work days over the course of 7 months. But it was a really fantastic opportunity for the youth in my program to work with an artist and see his whole process from initial inspiration through design and concept, through fabrication to installation, and kind of seeing the whole thing all the way through. And so just really quickly, Youth Volunteer Corps is a local organization. It's youth-led. It was co-founded by myself and high school students from around the city in 2015. We're just all about connecting the young leaders in the city to opportunities that they can improve their skills, but also have really meaningful impact on the communities around them. And so I brought a couple pictures with me to share. But the first thing that we had to engage in as part of this project is just a lot of learning, right? So I think the top picture was the very first time that we met with Miguel, and we just kind of learned about the project itself, right? So who are all the different partners and different players, all the people on the call tonight? What were the goals? What were we trying to achieve? And we did a lot of learning about the watershed and the animals and nature and the things, the way that humans interact with the environment and the impact that we have. And then the bottom picture, we learned a lot of new skills, tools, skills, art skills, technology skills. So the picture at the bottom, the kids are actually we were able to 3D scan objects and put them in the digital space and learn about, computer aided design and all sorts of cool stuff like that. And so there was a whole ton of like built-in, rich kind of learning opportunities for our students along the way. And then we got to do the design part, which was really fun and exciting. And so you can see in the top picture, there's like a pine cone on the table. We're starting to mold things out of clay, but the kids got to go out in nature and find things and forms that inspired them as they're starting to think about what they want these benches to look like and how they want the form and function to be. They learned about perspective drawings, and you can see we learned about like front elevation and side elevation and plan drawings and like how to look at objects from 3D space and how the light interplays with them and all sorts of cool stuff. And I was not really great at drawing, but that's okay. Sometimes I think a really important thing for adults to do, and maybe you all have to do it for the youth in your life, is just to hop in with them and be bad at it with them and make mistakes with them and kind of free them up to do the same. And then, at the bottom, we're actually starting to carve out of foam. Once we picked our design, we're carving out of foam, and then we're covering the foam with clay. And so again, we're kind of taking the students through that whole process of, all right, we have an idea. Now, how do we make it? How do we make it a real thing? Oops, I went the wrong way. And then once we started, we learned about CNC milling and cutting out the parts. We actually started construction and assembly. And so kids learned about things like dovetail joinery. The girls at the top are putting together the framework of the bench with rubber mallets and the dovetail joints. We learned about assembly, and the benches are really, really cool. There was a little bit tricky to assemble, and so it took a whole team to do it. And then Hella at the bottom is painting. But again, kind of, from that rough cutout to doing some finishing with the handheld router, to doing the painting, to doing any sanding of rough edges. It was really cool for the kids to kind of be involved in every aspect of the building and construction as well. And then, of course, one of the most rewarding things at the end of all this time is, getting to be a part of the opening ceremony. So thank you, everybody, for including us in that and for including YVC in the speeches and recognition. But you can see in the picture at the top, I think the kids were pretty proud of their work. They were proud when it left the workshop and to see it in the park. And they really had a great time working on it. We had 34 different youth volunteers participate. We contributed almost 200 hours of service to the project. There was 3 kids in particular that were most involved and kind of saw it all the way through. Each volunteered, more than 20 hours on the project. And then a really cool thing that I would just like to make the group aware of, we're kind of continuing on the theme of waterway and watershed conservation and protection. And we actually have a recycling workshop that we just opened in Kensington. We converted an old shipping container. You can see it there in the bottom picture. But after we do, river cleanups, neighborhood cleanups, school drives, we take all this plastic and remove it from the waterways, remove it from the waste stream, actually recycle it down and make it into usable goods that we can give back to the community. We've made little libraries and Eastern Bluebird houses and, toys to donate and all sorts of cool stuff. And so if anybody has youth in their life and are interested in kind of, advocating for and protecting our local waterways and watersheds going forward, I encourage you to look us up and come see the Kensington Recycling Center and learn how you can be, even more involved. But I just, we get to work with a lot of service partners, and I just wanted to shout out Miguel. Certain people are great at engaging with youth. Certain people are not so great at it. But to be a professional artist, he wasn't a teacher necessarily, wasn't an educator, but he really went out of his way to include our kids and make them feel involved. And they were really a part of this throughout the whole way. So, thank you to the project organizers for involving us, and for the artists. It was a real experience, a rich experience, and we had a great time participating in it. So thanks to everybody.
Thank you so much, Greg. Did you have a young person with you tonight?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. Dalila, we'd love to have you come on and give us the perspective of community engagement, community involvement. I know you've been involved for quite some time, and your daughters as well. So tell us, how were you involved? How were you brought into the project? What did you most enjoy about it? What don't you want people to miss?
Well, I guess while she tries to unmute, I could just share a few words about Dalila and her involvement. So we've met Dalila many years ago. She's a resident of Juniata and a neighbor of Tacony Creek Park. And so ever since we, so she's connecting to audio. ever since we met her, she's been coming to our programs, and we met her daughters, Dalila and Esia and Fatima, many years ago. Dalila, are you there?
Oh, finally, I had to get in and
Yay.
advice. How are you?
Good. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry, we were still on the road and we couldn't get, but we here. What was the question again?
Just tell us kind of how you got involved, you and your daughters. Yeah, your involvement with the RiverAlive Learning Trail, what you most love about it, kind of how you got engaged and involved.
So yes, we have been participating with TTF Watershed in a lot of the programs within the I and Ramona entrance, and from there, and then Julie, we have built a relationship, and we were part of the first initial meetings, giving input to what we want to see, and seeing it later on come alive. It was just amazing experience. We were so sad to see the park empty right now, but we're looking forward for the spring to come, and the impact it has done to the neighborhood is amazing.
Thank you. Do you have a favorite part?
I would say I think everything is great. I think each piece of the RiverAlive has a special meaning. It shows what is around the neighborhood. But I think I really enjoy the fox and the benches.
The benches, yeah. And if you're wondering who we're speaking with, you can go right on Motivos Instagram and you'll see a picture of Dalila and her daughters. We did a little interview with them in the ribbon cutting. And so check that out. The Motivos youth around the call tonight are kind of gathering up and learning from all of you and taking notes. And I'm sure they'll listen to the recording again with the intent to create content, a special section of our Spring Environments Edition. So everyone keep your eyes peeled for our Environments Edition that will be out in the spring. If you'd like to support youth journalism in that way, please consider subscribing to our magazine. Just go to motivosmag.com, press order. Do that before the price increases because printing costs are going crazy. So do that this year. Gift a subscription to a young person in your life. It's entirely in English and Spanish, and it comes out 4 times per year. And we really enjoy kind of having our finger to the pulse of the community and helping our youth gain that access to resources and insider knowledge and what's behind the scenes and how does this magical world come together, right? Who's behind there? What's happening? And can we be a part of it? And so I encourage you to all to jump in there. And speaking of jumping in, we're going to open up to questions. It is 6:02. So if our panelists need to leave and have family commitments, we totally understand. But if anyone had questions that are pressing on them, do put it in the chat or do speak up. Just go off mic and put it. If you'd like to type it in the chat and we don't get to you, we'll get the answers to you via email. So don't worry about that. But if anyone would have a question at this point, feel free to go off mic or any closing words from any of the artists, something you'd wanted to mention. And I'm going to put the link in also for the field trip I mentioned. So the Tacony Frankford Watershed Partnership and the Seaport Museum, right? They're coming together to offer this great field trip. So if you're in the Philadelphia area, you can meet at the RiverAlive Learning Trail, you can enjoy it, and then you can go on down to the Seaport Museum. So I'm just going to put that link. This is where you sign up right there in the chat. Hopefully it made it through. And if you're missing out on that, just go to the website that's also in the chat for the Tacony Frankford Watershed Partnership. Victoria, were you going to say something? Someone was going to say something. No.
I could say something real quick.
Sure, Jay.
Just to highlight what Dalila said, the park looks empty now. So the way I'm looking at it, it's like, it's something that we didn't know the park needed, something that was, initially supposed to be something that's extra added to the park. But now that it's gone, it's a missing piece of the park. So now that I'm putting 2 and 2 together, I'm happy that I'm sure not just Dalila looks at it that way, but the community and neighborhood, they feel like something's missing about it, and which gives them, you know, something to look forward to in the spring. So that's just one thing I wanted to add.
And Julie, you had something in the chat. Do you want to say it out loud so everyone can hear it who's watching live stream as well?
I had a few things. One of them is we do own books. So, one organization is
Your sound is going in and out. Maybe speak right into the microphone.
Is that better?
Yes, so much better.
So we actually own the molds of the animals, and we have been, so they can be reproduced a few times. And we've already been contacted by one organization interested in seeing how to do that. So that's pretty exciting. In addition, you know, we are finishing up. So, you know, we love Pony Creek Park is our park that we love, that we want to bring attention to. And
you are losing your sound again, Julie.
I'm sorry.
There you go.
My laptop is a mess. So we are looking to bring additional resources to that park. We are completing a master plan for the park. So there may be opportunities to bring some of these, you know, some of the animals and some of the installation to another area in the park. Because there are a lot of spots that are sort of like the Furco Playground, which are sort of flat parks next to the park, that are adjacent to the park. In addition, we will be doing programming. I mean, this program is funded for next spring, summer, and fall. So we'll be doing programming. This fall was really sort of a pilot. So the reading programs, the science programs will continue. So people, if they're interested in, we have working with the community. If people are interested in working with us, please let us know. We're looking to bring in some ambassadors to do that work with us. And yes, the plan was always, so if people ask you about what happened to the sculptures and the benches, we did send out an email to everybody on our list. We posted that we were removing those. That was always the plan. Like Victoria said, we are taking them and maintaining them and taking care of them, and they will go back in the spring. You know, one of our sort of, I don't know what it is, one of our things is that maintenance is really an issue in many of the places in our neighborhood, and we are really committed to keeping those features beautiful and clean and fresh. And we didn't want them to get, you know, winter can be really tough, so we didn't want them to get damaged in the summer. But we did get some posts from people on Instagram. I got a post from a grandfather who said
your sound is going out again.
Grandchildren were very sad. His grandchildren were very sad to see that the animals were gone.
Aw, and Siani's writing that in the chat as well. People started asking immediately once the statues were removed. They're loved, they're missed. I'm wondering, do you do programs in the schools during the winter? Dorian, do you bring the Creekmobile out, for example? Is that something that schools could request? And how would they go about doing that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. If anyone has an interest, if has like a festival or an event taking place at an indoor location, they contact us and then we can coordinate to get the Creekmobile there like we did for the Salvation Army that summer. So, yes.
Well, and the installation, I mean, is really just the beginning point. I mean, we would love for, you know, educators, education facilitators, babysitters, you know, stay-at-home at-home educators that basically they use it as a platform to teach what they would like to teach, to do field trips, for excursions. So, you know, there are programs that are going to be activated, but we also hope that it cultivates, you know, kind of a curiosity and inspiration to use them as, you know, anyone needs to use them, whether it's just for rest, whether it's to, you know, a place for people to meet up, or it's a place for someone to actually create a lesson.
And educators can go right on your webpage as well, right? And get the trail maps. There's scavenger hunts. Parents can download those. There's trail scavenger hunts. There's a whole card game that really helps people interact while they're on the trail. One of the walking trails my son and I joined, right? Dorian, you were there leading it. And the card game was a lot of fun. It made you notice things on the trail and you're competing against each other to find things as fast as you can. And we saw snakes too. That was a bonus.
Tacony
Absolutely.
has its own website. So, and I'm hoping Jamie Lee will, I think Jamie Lee kind of already, but we'll put it in the.
Julie, can you move
We'll
your
put
head
it in-
slightly to your right
We'll
and
put
then
it
we'll
in
hear
the-
you. There we
We'll
go.
put it in the chat. So
Yep.
it's tcpkeepers.org. We recently did some reorganizing of that website. So you can see what kind of programs we have in the park, you know, aquamaroon. I mean, there's maps, there's a bunch of stuff that people can access. The find that goes with the RiverAlive Learning Trail. There's a bunch of resources on that site. And if you want hard copies, call us. We will drop them off at your school or your house. We are really happy to share materials that we have. And just keep an eye on us. In sometime this winter, we will also be installing some new signs in the park as part of the master plan. We have a partnership with the Alany Culture Lab. So this is the other end of the park. And we'll be installing 4 amazing, beautiful signs that are about people that use the park. They're really beautiful. And they connect oral histories, and it's really wonderful people. We're very proud of those people. It's all about bringing resources and very beautiful.
Oh, how fun. And Jamie Lee's putting in the chat the Seek and Find scavenger hunt maps at tcpkeepers.org, RiverAlive Learning Trail. Lots of fun stuff in there. The aquamaroon card sets. Yes, lovely.
Yeah, and Habithèque Vimeo. So all the projects that I work on, I also make all of the digital assets available for anyone. So if you just typed in Habithèque on Vimeo, there are many videos and other kinds of animations that teachers can use or that parents can use, kids can watch. So it just builds on the information at the learning trail.
And Habithèque is spelled HABITHEQUE.com. So when you Google it, those that are listening, not looking in the chat, that's how you can find it. Wonderful. This has been such a lovely time together. Oh my goodness. And there's so many different aspects. I hope everyone that came together can take away that, you know, when we mix and mingle and bring disparate parts together, when we look interdisciplinarily at things, magic comes alive. It's not just science alone. It's not just music by itself. It's not just art or not just poetry, how they can all come together and intertwine. This is real life, right? This is 3-dimensional life. This is breathing and feeling and speaking and walking all at once, right? So you want to feel fully alive. That's why they call it RiverAlive, right? And the water runs through all of us. Then check this out. Do tell us once again, when will the sculptures be back? And tell us about a little bit what they can experience at the Seaport Museum's kind of sister exhibit in the meantime.
And Simon having so much trouble
So Julie, do you want me to answer? So we hope to reopen in May or June. So sometime in late May, early June, to have the installation reinstalled and for the water poetry of Jays to be back in activation and the public programming to happen during the summer months. And then in the meantime, though, like we said, you can be part of one of these field trips and get free admission into the RiverAlive exhibition at the Independent Seaport Museum, which is actually, I mean, it's a $19 ticket. So it's a pretty good deal to go there either. And if you don't want to take the bus trip, you don't need to. You can actually just contact TTF Watershed Dorian and we can get you tickets. That was part of the grant proposal, was actually to have William Penn Foundation support visitation at the Seaport Museum. That exhibition, as I was saying, is part of a larger museum there. There's quite a bit to do, but the RiverAlive exhibition is very interactive in lots of digital media there and to explore. So that is open to the public throughout the winter months.
Woo, woo. Do you want to share the phone number that people would call for the free tickets?
Dorian.
That would be 215-744-1853.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I'm gonna stop the live stream at this point, but live stream folks, feel free to put your questions in the comments and we'll get you answers as well. So thank you everyone for being here. We can hang out a little bit. Usually the Motivos team kind of like brainstorms different things. We have an edition on press right now, so we can breathe. But thank you everyone for coming.